Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lewis Pickering Football Show. Today's part 2 of 5 of my early season Premier League previews. Today I'm going to be doing Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Everton and Fulham. So let's start with Chelsea. I didn't see many people predict Chelsea to be in the top 4 last season. I didn't see it myself, especially with the transfer ban. I thought they might struggle to get into the Champions League. I think it's a great achievement by Frank Lampard in his first season to get Champions League football. The areas that Chelsea struggled last season for me was the defence. I just don't think they've got a strong enough defence. Young Tomori started the season really well, playing regularly, and then he seemed to fall out of favour under Lampard, so I don't know what happened there. I think Rudiger coming back was a big addition. They've been linked with Lewis Dunk from Brighton. I think it'd be a great sign, and if you watch my Brighton preview, you'd know how much of a big fan I am of his. I think if him and Chilwell, who's also been linked, I reckon Chilwell's nearly done. I think if you can go and get England's number 1 left back, then you go get him. I think if them two come in, it really improves Chelsea's defence. I think Dunk and Rudiger could create a really strong partnership, and I think Chilwell's a massive improvement on Marcus Alonso. So with Chelsea's transfer ban up, they've wasted no time in making 2 cracking signings. Timo Werner from RB Leipzig was wanted all over Europe, and Chelsea have got him. 28 goals in just 33 Bundesliga starts last season. The man's an absolute goal machine. It'll be interesting to see if he adapts to the Premier League straight away. The other sign is Hakim Ziyech from Ajax. Great from a dead ball. 16 assists in just 31 games last season. I think he'll give them an extra dimension as well next season. For me, Chelsea's main player last season was Christian Pulisic. I thought he had a cracking season. Great in the air, great with both feet and so much pace. I think if he stays fully fit next season, has a full season, he'll be Chelsea's best player once again next season. I honestly think he'll go on to be anything he wants in the world. And last but not least with Chelsea, they need a goalkeeper. They paid over 80 million for Kepa last season. He started getting left out for journeyman Willy Caballero. If Lampard's leaving him out for Willy Caballero, we've got a big problem. Chelsea need to go into the transfer market. They've been linked with Oblak, but I just can't see him leaving Atletico Madrid. They've also been linked with Dean Henderson, but for me he goes and be Man United's number 1. But Lampard definitely needs a goalkeeper this season. All in all, with the attacking players Chelsea have signed and they've already got in their team, I think they look like a cracking team to watch next season. If they can just improve their defence just that tiny bit, I see no problems with Chelsea retaining their Champions League spot this season. So let's move on to Crystal Palace, who finished 14th in the Premier League last season under Roy Hodgson. Cracking season, another season in the Premier League, well safe, not really ever in trouble of relegation. But if you look a bit deeper, in the last 8 games, Palace didn't win a game. Also, scored the second lowest goals in the Premiership. Only Norwich scored less goals than them, and I think if they're going to be okay this season, they need to add more goals. I feel like Palace's squad is an aging squad as well. Gary Cahill come in last season and did really well. The keeper Guaita, but they're both well over 30 now. James McCarthy in midfield being a Premier League stalwart, but I think his best years are behind him. Wilf Zaha, obviously Palace's main player. If he doesn't turn up, you don't even think that Palace look like scoring. They don't look in the game. For me, I think Zaha stays. He's contracted till 2023. He signed a new long-term contract, so Palace don't have to sell on the cheap. And if a player like that wins your games, like, why would you sell? The 2 players I've seen Palace linked with most within the transfer market this season is the young lad Eze from Queen's Park Rangers and Ryan Fraser. Eze tore up the Championship last season. He's just 22-year-old, scored 14 goals and assisted 8 times in a struggling QPR team. Fresh energy. I think he'd be an absolute bargain to add to Crystal Palace's midfield. Ryan Fraser, I think every team in the bottom half of the Championship would take him. 18 assists in the past 2 seasons for Bournemouth. Quick, can play on both wings, and I think he'd be a cracking addition to any team that gets him on a free transfer. So all in all, I think if Palace keep Zaha, they're strong enough, they've got enough experience, they'll stay up in the Premier League next season. I do think they need to be careful with the aging squad, and I think it could just do with a bit of freshening up, but under Roy Hodgson, I think they'll survive in the Premier League this season. So we move on to Everton, the biggest underachievers in the Premier League the last few seasons. In the past 5 seasons, Everton have a net spend of £275 million, which is the third highest in the Premier League. Last season they finished in 12th place under Ancelotti. I know Ancelotti only come in December, but still 12th place is nigh on a disastrous season for me. Ancelotti will get money to spend in the transfer market, there's no doubt in my mind. He took the job with assurances that he'd be given money, and I'm guessing he'll be well back to bring in the players that he wants to bring in. Ancelotti's got his front two to thank that they finished 12th in the Premier League last season. Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin in a 4-4-2 system both scored 13 Premier League goals last season, which is a great return in my opinion for a side that doesn't create too many chances. If you look beyond that though, the next high scorer is Bernard with 3 goals. Everton needs serious goals from midfield to help with the front two. The person who I think needs a big season for Everton this season is Jordan Pickford. Not just for Everton fans but for England fans. He's been England's number 1 for the last few years. Last season in the Premier League, Jordan Pickford made 4 mistakes leading to goals, which was more than any other goalkeeper in the Premier League. I think he's really struggling to be England's number 1 at the Euros next summer. I think he's got big competition from Nick Pope and Dean Henderson. I think if he gets back to his best, he is England's number 1, but I just haven't seen it in the past 2 years. And I think if he wants to be England's number 1, he's got to have the best season of his career so far. So all in all with Everton, with the money they've spent, I think they should be pushing the top 6, but without them, obviously I don't know if they're going to sign anyone in this transfer market at the moment. Obviously they haven't signed anyone. I just still don't see it. I don't see the consistency there. Even with Ancelotti, I can't see them being near the top 6. Definitely not breaking into it. Sorry Everton fans. And finally we move on to Fulham. Won the playoff final against Brentford. I think Scott Parker deserves a lot of credit for the performance in the playoff final. In possession this season, Fulham have averaged 58% possession, but in the final against Brentford, they let Brentford have more of the ball. They thought that Brentford fullbacks push up too much and they would catch them on the counter, and it worked, and I think Scott Parker needs a lot of credit for that. It'll be interesting to see what Fulham do this season. Last time they come up, they spent over 100 million and it just didn't work. They ended up finishing 19th in the Premier League. This season, I think the current squad will be given more of a chance, and I think that'll bode well for Fulham this season. Fulham's main player is obviously Alexander Mitrovic. 26 goals in the Championship last season, which made him the top scorer. Already proved he can do it at Premiership level. I think he's an absolute bulldozer. I think probably the best striker in the bottom half of the Premier League. I think if he stays fit, he's the difference between Fulham maybe staying up or going down. The one signing confirmed for Fulham so far is Anthony Knockaert on a permanent transfer. Obviously he was on loan at Fulham last season. Knockaert's already made 72 appearances in the Premier League, and I think it's good to have Premier League experience in your squad. The more you can have for the promoted teams, the better. All in all, I think it comes down to Mitrovic. I think he could fire them to safety, but I think the squad's just lacking a bit too much. And for me, it's the draw. So there it is, part 2 of 5 finish of my early Premier League previews. Part 3 will be out on Wednesday. It'll feature Leeds, Leicester, Liverpool and Manchester City. The new boys Leeds, the 2 title contenders in my opinion. Liverpool and Manchester City should be a good episode. If you've got any questions, get them in the comments below. I'll reply to comments. If you've got anything I think I should add, let me know. Hit like and subscribe. See you again. Bye.